Hi, I'm Billy Seidlitz, and welcome back to our Mobilizing Faith podcast. I'm joined by,
Jonathan Baker.
and in studio, we have our multimedia director, Daniel John. DJ, you're beautiful. Good to have you here. And we're blessed to have our technical producer, Kyle Lakin, again, back with us this week, working hard for us to get this out to you guys. So today, we're just going to be bringing you some big news. Really not news, but a big part of the podcast I've been excited for a few months now, and that's going to be Jonathan's going to actually share his testimony for us today for the first time ever out to the public like this. So I'm really excited about that, and I know that Jonathan's been planning about this and thinking about it and praying about it. So we just hope that his story was able to move you and touch your heart. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jonathan. How you doing, Jonathan?
Good, and thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity to just share, my testimony.
Yeah, it's a blessing, man. You look good, too.
You too, bro.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's just get started. I was born in a little town in Southern California, and I was born into a family of 3 brothers, and it was kind of hard because they're all older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest brother, he was the first glimpse of like a true Christ follower I ever really had.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I went in and out of church, but I was so young. I wasn't paying attention to anybody. I was kind of just, a kid, going to the Sunday school, listening to little stories.
The routine.
The routine kind of thing. And I saw him, and he was in worship. He was, dedicated to his youth. He was just serving God. And it was just awesome to see. But he ended up moving away. He got married, ended up moving away to Canada with his wife, she's from there. Gotcha. And so by the time I was 8, he was already out of the picture. And
that early,
I think it was just starting then when my brothers started getting really bad. They were getting bad for a little bit, but I think it just got really bad. And, middle school, high school, they started doing drugs. I think one of them had ADHD. He had kind of he was violent a little bit. He was they had him through soccer most of the time because he was just so hyperactive.
Gotcha.
But I think by the time high school and stuff, he just he really just didn't care for it. He was just he still did it, but he was still kind of just like he was kind of wavering with the world. And it just kind of affected me because as a kid, I'm still like 9, 10, and he was just violent, angry, so he was getting in fights a lot at school, outside of the house, going in and out of juvie, stuff like that.
Right.
Just trouble with the cops. And then it came home because he was, yelling, screaming, violent with my parents, violent with my other brother. He'd sometimes scream at me. And, I'm just a kid, and I've, cops coming out of the house, just all this stuff. It was hard on my parents. It was hard on me as a kid. And it was really hard because I didn't really have any guidance as a child because they had to focus on him. And because he was just, he was like a lot of work for them. So it kind of was just hard on me. And I just kind of had no, guidance as a kid. So, as a kid, I just started, learning on my own and just doing dumb things because I didn't know what to do as a kid. And so I didn't have really good relationships with people. I was kind of a weird, not weird, but just kind of like not very good with social aspect. Like people would say I was social, but it's just because I was a class clown kind of kid.
It wasn't like a traditional.
It wasn't like a traditional like social kid. I was just trying to fit in. So I do stupid things, get in troubles in the office probably every day, just trying to fit in. And it was hard because, like my parents had to deal with him, and then, I'm getting in trouble every day. And so, it was hard, they're stressed out. So, they could take out some anger on me and probably for him that they had on him. And it just was just a hard time for the family. And so after elementary school, middle school, my parents started sending me to like private schools and stuff because they just didn't want to, they don't want to send me to a public school because that's what they saw with my brothers, who both were doing drugs and stuff and, having issues.
Trying to switch it up with you.
They're trying to switch it up with me, which they were thinking, okay, public school is an issue for them. Let's send him to private. So I started going private schools in and out for my first 2 years of middle school. And I didn't like it, obviously.
So you were going to like several different ones?
Yeah,
so what was
like
that?
my first one was this like charter school. I ended up leaving that one for another I don't even know what other school I went to that year. I think I actually stayed at that school.
Why were you moving around? Just wasn't working out.
just wasn't working out. You know, that first
Yeah,
school
it's
I had a
rough.
lot. I was, you know, still a troubled kid. Trouble at that school. My parents didn't want to deal with it. You know, just like I go to the next school.
Yeah, I bet. I mean,
Trouble with that school. They sent me to another school. So yeah, they sent me to a charter school for the beginning of 7th grade. I hated it,
mhm.
and you know, I was like, just wasn't good for me. I was really not good at school because I didn't really have desire, and
Mhm.
so as a kid, getting bad grades, and they sent me to this charter school, which is like packets. Like they hand you a packet, you do the work yourself,
Mhm.
and I wasn't at that level.
You
You
weren't like
know,
motivated.
I wasn't motivated, so I'm not
Right.
gonna do it myself. And so I was failing there, and my parents, and I was getting in trouble still,
It's
and
got
so
to be
my
hard to get grounded too. You know.
yeah, and so my parents just like were sending me to they sent me to a Christian school.
Mhm.
I mean, it was fun, but for all the wrong reasons. You know, a lot of those kids were there were kind of troubled too. Were just being bad, like because the school was kind of like a farm. You know, it was a school slash like, just like this like farm area with like animals and like all this stuff. A lot of land.
Mhm.
So me and these kids, you know, running around, just getting in trouble.
Nothing else to do.
You know, yeah, and we're all kind of troubled kids a little bit,
Right.
and wasn't a good environment for me, you know. And I started, you know, dating girls that year. You know, just trying to experiment with that too. You know, there's a lot of trouble, you know, jumping girl to girl, you know, first kisses, first this, you know, like it was kind of just like hard, you know. And it wasn't my first, probably. Actually, I take that back. You know, as a little kid, you know, there's those little kisses, but first like
Little Johnny.
meaningful little like, oh, I have a girlfriend kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, so I started experimenting in that area, and you know, it was just fun as a kid. I just didn't know any better. You know, I'm just still being stupid, still had no guidance. So I'm still doing my same routine, you know, being the class clown. Hopefully people will like me kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I ended up like after that year, finally my parents were like, "Okay, let's send you to a public school." And actually, I would take it back. Like that summer after 7th grade, I ended up going with one of my friends from elementary school, and you know the peer pressure of like we were at this lake with this family, and we're in a bad area, you know, a little more ghetto area
Mhm.
of SoCal, and you know some kid who's probably 17 came up to us. We're say both like 13, and he
Mhm.
just was like, "You guys want to smoke some weed?" And I was at the time never did a drug. I've seen what my brothers went through, and I was like, "No, no, no."
It was just like a random
I was just
thing.
kind of a random thing. I didn't know the
Jeez.
guy. I was like, "No, I don't
That's
want to
weird.
smoke." And my other friend obviously was like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah." And so you know, the dude runs away. Guy comes back, and the peer pressure kind of just was like, I'm still, you know, as a kid, I wanted to be accepted by people, so I was like, oh,
Exactly.
okay, I'll do it. And I remember smoking. I don't know if it was lace. You know how they say the first time you're not supposed to, but I was a little whacked out. You know, me and him had fun. It was dumb. You know, walking the streets. I just remember seeing like homeless people on the ground, seeing all this stuff as a kid, just kind of like, you know, just sedated. And I didn't know, like, I didn't really
Too
know.
young to like know what's
I
going
was
on,
too
like
young to
know what
really
you're doing.
understand, like, you know, like it felt good. So that's all I remember. I was like, it felt good, you know. And so after that, you know, I started middle school.
Mhm.
Not middle school. Sorry, I started eighth
Eighth
grade,
grade.
and my parents transferred me to a public school, and that was probably, you know, now looking back, it was a bad decision. You know, going back to public school after elementary school, and
After private school and middle school.
yeah, after private, because you know, middle school, you know, is one of the time kids are getting really bad, and
Impressionable age, you know.
impressionable age. So you know, I'm going there, you know, still like doing stuff like, you know, dating girls, you know,
Mhm.
and just I started hanging out with the wrong crowd,
Right.
kids that were, you know, skater kids, not the best kids, you know, the trouble kids, you know, the little
Mhm.
more, you know, bad kids, and you know, I fit in because I was a class clown, you know, I was a pretty vulgar, crazy kid, you know, I was in trouble all the time, you know. And so I kind of started liking the attention. I do stupid things, you know, like say dumb things, you know, make teachers mad, you know, it's whatever. And so they liked me because they're like, okay, this kid kind of had balls, kind of thing, you know. I don't know if I could say
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Sorry
you
if I
can
said it
say
wrong,
that,
but like,
bro.
you know, they're saying he has guts, kind of
It's your
thing. So like,
story.
this kid is like doing the things that, you know, some kids wouldn't even have the, you know, the guts to do. So I was just out
Right.
there, just like, oh, they like me.
He was like the edgy
Yeah, the edgy
kid,
kid.
the
So I
skater
started fitting in with
kid.
these kids, and you know, they you know, they took me in and I felt like accepted. And, you
Mhm.
know, it wasn't a good crowd for me, but at the time I was like, I have friends, you know?
Right.
And so I was just like hanging out with these kids throughout middle school, or the end of middle school. And by the time high school started, we all transferred to the same high school.
Mhm.
And I remember starting that summer where I started doing like drugs, with these kids, or like not as much drugs, but just doing dumb things like drinking, drugs, and just like wild stuff with these kids, getting into trouble. And by the time high school started, I was still like trying to date girls and trying to just have fun, just doing dumb things, still getting in trouble. And I think that was the first year I experienced like the start of my downfall in relationships with girls. And it was because I think I attracted, I was doing a lot of bad stuff, so I started attracting the wrong people. And so I was attracting these girls who were, not that healthy for me. And, I'm still hanging out with the wrong kids, so I didn't have good friendships, good, people to hang out around, a bad crowd.
Right
And then
type
I'm,
of
dating the
investments
wrong
in you.
girls, doing everything wrong.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm dating these girls who were kind of, immature, kind of like hanging out with the kids I hang out with. So they're kind of like party girls,
Mhm.
trouble
Seeking
girls
the right
too.
kind
They're
of
still,
attention.
we're all troubled kids.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I can't blame them. I was just as troubled as them. But, this is the first time I experienced, like, girls, like, cheating and things like that. And, like, the first time it happened, I was kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. This is the first time. I didn't date this girl for long.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't a big deal to me. And then I started experimenting or seeing kids, like, experimenting with sex. I saw my friends, having, talking about their first times. Oh, I had sex. Like, oh, and everybody kind of was like, this is, like, a cool thing. And so, like, obviously I was a kid, like, I want that. So,
Right.
like, I want to be, like, part of this like new thing with the guys, like we're all talking about it. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so for me,
To be accepted
I wanted
even
to be
more.
accepted more. And so like, I'm seeing, I tried to like talk to more girls. I think I ended up like almost, like I was just seeing a lot of stuff that year, hanging out with the worst kids, seeing just like, girls in a different light now, seeing just
Right.
everything different. I'm still getting in trouble all the time,
Mhm.
still doing dumb things, trying to be the cool freshman. Like, oh, I'm trying to like fit in. So,
Made it all hard.
I started trying to hang out with older kids. I actually ended up for a little time hanging out with like the juniors that were doing drugs, in school, pushing drugs, doing crazy stuff. I just started just like trying to just fit in with all these
Fit
people,
in.
trying to be that kid that like they wanted to hang out with, and I was coming under some people's wings. I think I was being used a little bit. They're kind of just like, oh, this kid's funny. The kid's like,
Dude, I bet I see
Yeah.
that even in our school when we were
yeah, as a
when we
kid.
were upperclassmen, dude. I mean, I saw that all the time. It's like, oh, this guy's just using this freshman. This guy's just
Yeah.
using the younger kids, so impressionable, and it's
And so
wow, I see that.
It was like that for me.
Yeah,
I was
I
just,
bet.
a little wild kid, and they saw like people I guess saw that, and they weren't attracted to me for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so I was just doing all this stuff. By the end of the year, I was starting to get in trouble more. I ended up almost getting in trouble with the law, getting stuff. And I actually ended up, like a girl called me over for like, sexual stuff. And I was like, oh, this is my chance,
Mhm.
It didn't pan out, cops were like all around. And I, at the time I'm hormone little kid, tried to like force my way a little bit, not like in a bad way, but just trying to like, no, you called me out here kind of thing. And ended up getting arrested. And all this stuff happened, and I ended up getting taken home. I didn't get arrested and sent to jail, but taken home and
Detained. a little bit.
detained, basically,
Right.
not arrested. But they told me told my parents I wasn't getting in trouble. I went back to school. Girls telling everybody, like all these stories about me, and like it's just like I had to, I guess my mom was like, we have to get out of here. She worked at my school, so she got like an acceptance to a new school, and I accepted it. And at the end, I didn't want to leave, but it was already happened. So then I ended up coming to another high school, which is the same high school we went to,
Mhm.
and still troubled kid. Came in, started hanging out with some crazy kids. At first I was hanging out with like my friend. Some of the basketball kids, some of the, kind of my old friends from elementary school, because they went there. Because I ended up transferring from an elementary school that goes to, one of the middle
The
schools
feeder
that
school.
went there, the feeder school to there.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I transferred to another school that fed me to another high school. And then
Right.
I ended up transferring to the school I was supposed to be from the beginning.
It's like a reconnection.
Yeah, so reconnection. I was like with old friends. But then they ended up leaving. One of them ended up leaving that high school. And this is my best friend from elementary school. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start, exploring more. Start hanging out with more friends. And by the end of during sophomore year, I started dating a girl, and her name, I don't even want to get into the name. Let's just say she was like this one girl, the first girl I think I really like
Eve.
wanted to
Say her
date.
name was Eve.
Yeah, let's say something. The first girl I really like, I think it was like a real like kind of like there was no real connection actually. I take it back. Like it was just this like the first like actual high school relationship I had, and it was just unhealthy. She was kind of a very hormone driven girl. So I think she obviously was cheating on me, sleeping around, but she was also trying to like push me into stuff, doing stuff like in public, trying to I wasn't, at sometimes, I just wasn't comfortable. So, I ended up, trying to keep going with her. I was like, oh, I still like her,
Mm-hmm.
this pretty girl is giving me attention, so kind of thing. So I asked her to like homecoming thing. We went to homecoming together, kind of stuff like that. And then we ended up breaking up, and it was kind of hard because I was like, oh, I like this girl, but she was like, oh, I have like anxiety, just like excuses to just get away from me,
Mm-hmm.
because she was obviously I found out now that she was like sleeping around with other people, and it's kind of hard,
Yeah.
but I got away from it, and I went out through the rest of the year just having just still just doing stupid stuff, hanging out with dumb people, drugs every once in a while, not as bad yet.
This was like sophomore year.
Sophomore
you're saying?
year,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And by the time junior year, junior year started. Before junior year, I started dating a girl named I'm not even name. Why do I keep saying names? Okay, the first like real relationship I think I had, I thought, and me and this girl were, you know, just we're close. My parents were, like taking us places. We're going out to like the fair, going out to like theme parks. We're getting close.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents knew me. I was at her house a lot. My parents knew her. She lived down the street, so we were just with each other a lot. And it wasn't a healthy relationship. By the time we were in a month in, she started, giving me like sexual like favor stuff, and I was at the time I was like, okay, this is like okay, cool, like she loves me kind of thing. I'm thinking, which it wasn't love. It was kind of like a lust thing, or kind of just like, it wasn't really healthy. Benefits. It was just kind of like, oh, I think it was kind of a thing where just oh, this is what girlfriends do for boyfriends. This is what boyfriends. So kind of thing, And so we're just kind of like experimenting. We're both pretty young, and it was getting bad, and we ended up within a month in having sex for the first time, and then it was finally like, I'm telling all my buddies, hey man, like it finally happened, like I'm all happy, and like it was just like that moment for me, and me and this girl just went down this unhealthy path where we're just like sex every day kind of thing, just unhealthy relationship. That's all we knew each other as, is just like, oh, we're just the people that have sex together kind of thing, at my house, her house, just wherever. And it was just kind of like we didn't really have that strong connection. We weren't. It was just that's really what it was at that. It started just that's what it just became, and she started cheating on me, and it was hard because I got this close connection with this girl.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's like a
like
bond.
like that was a bond. I basically did something that was meant for marriage with this girl. I was just physically in every way, and like even emotionally just attached to this girl. And it was hard because she cheated on me with her ex-boyfriend. I almost got in a fight with this kid. All this issues, just she dragged me on for a little time just with just all this, just issues, just troubling me. And so, she's telling him one story, telling me one story, just getting us to like basically fight. She was like an instigator. She was just like this girl who she wanted drama. And so eventually, I finally let her go. And another girl came right into my life, and right away, just like started talking to me about, oh, this girl, she cheated on you, like, oh, she's terrible. I'm gonna, I should talk to this girl, like, whatever, and started arguing with her. My ex called my mom, I got in trouble.
A lot of drama.
All this stuff, all this drama. And then right away, started dating this girl. And it was unhealthy because it was a day later, just started talking to another girl. And, because she made me feel accepted. She, she was there. She was like, oh, I got your back. I got all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this girl cares. And so I started, dating this girl. And this is all still within sophomore year. The beginning of I think end of my no, end of my sophomore year was the other girl. Beginning of my junior year was this girl. And we started just dating, unhealthy. We went to a theme park together. She was kind of like playing the like unhealthy game of like ignore him or like whatever, like, just kind of we're physical fast, kind of just like there's no like it wasn't a healthy connection. And I basically she was the same girl as the other girl, just different person, and all that, and same issues, but I was still like new to this issue. That was the first time I really had, and probably second time, but like first time it was actually something I cared about. So it was like, oh, like maybe this girl is different. She told me she wouldn't cheat on me. She told me all this stuff. So, I started dating this girl. Same thing, having sexual stuff fast, and just everything moves so quick. And, having sex constantly. And just me and this girl got this bond too. I met her parents. She met my parents. We were at each other's house all the time. Same thing. Going out to theme parks together. Parents taking us places. Just like we're getting this same connection. Like, oh, we're getting really close. And I noticed she was always with guys. Always like, she's like, I just have guy friends. As a kid, I was like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it really wasn't. Like, yeah, it's okay to have guy friends, but she wasn't healthy about it. Hanging out with these guys alone with herself. Just things that like were red flags. But I didn't know because I'm just this young kid. Just kind of, I felt like she cared about me. So I was like, oh, like I was just immature still in relationships. And so she dragged me on. She cheated on me a bunch. I think she probably cheated on me the most. And just all this issues, she ended up leaving me. She ended up like messing around with her best friend, and I just wanted to leave her. So then I just was like, I gotta leave. And eventually, after like 4 months of that, like each relationship actually crazy was each 4 months. So it was like this weird time gap where each one just ended at this certain time. I don't know if it was like all these girls agreed on it, but I don't know. But it just kind of like happened like that, and I just like was like, okay, I'm done with this girl, and I'm out. So we end up I ended up leaving her. It was a healthy breakup. I was just like, I gotta go. And by the time that ended, we were just like, I was just at this unhealthy place in my life. I was just kind of like, this is ridiculous. I'm sick and tired of like dealing with this stuff. And so I'm just like at this time just doing drugs, doing really crazy stuff like getting drunk, doing drugs, and like getting in trouble. Like at this time, I'm like getting in trouble with the law more.
Gotcha.
Not like I was learning. I was kind of just doing dumb things, and like I didn't get in. I would say not too much trouble yet with the law, but basically was just like learning how to like just do dumb things. By the end of junior year is when it really got bad. During the summer, just doing drugs with friends. Doing stupid things.
Escalating.
It escalated. I went from smoking weed a lot to like trying meth. One of the worst drugs you can do. And did that. Just doing stupid things, hanging out with dumb people, like adults that are like, some people were in gangs, some people were homeless people that are just like roaming the streets, just doing drugs, just hanging out with like people as a kid you shouldn't be hanging out with.
Right.
And along with these other skater kids who just like, oh, let's hang out with these older guys, just do drugs and just get messed up. And so we're all just getting messed up and still getting in trouble a lot. This is when I started getting in trouble with cops, running from cops, just going to parties, and like we ended up like at one point we like raided a house and cops came, all this stuff, just all these things were happening, and I'm just like getting caught in these things because I'm with the wrong crowd, and end up doing like meth with these people, and just like I think that drug just really was messing with me. I was getting more violent, getting crazy because it messed with my mind, losing my mind. At this time, I'm sleeping around with girls a lot. Throughout the summer, I'm just sleeping around with girls, and because I didn't want to date a girl anymore, I was like, there's so much pain.
But cheat on you.
I still was at that point where I'm like, I like, because I've already been so experienced to it. I'm like, I like sex, so I'm just sleeping around with these girls, different girls all the time, and just basically trying to have fun, and just hanging out with these guys, doing these drugs, and like this meth was just messing with me. And I was just doing it so much, hanging out with like like this guy that was tweaking out, getting these drugs, just feeding it to us so he can be with people. And he was just unstable, one day violent, like 1 second violent, 1 second cool, like just bipolar, just whacked out. And I just was feeling the vibes. I was like, this is not where I want to be, and I could just feel it. And I ended up leaving, and I, almost died at the come down. I actually almost died while I was doing the drug, almost overdosed. And I get away. That was the day I overdosed almost.
So
and I
talk
was,
about that a little bit, maybe.
yeah, so like I did the drug. I was smoking like daily almost. Just doing this drug, doing this drug, doing this drug. Just, going around with these kids. Yeah, these late at night. I wasn't at this whole summer. I was never home. Like I was basically. I had a job. I lost my job because all the drugs I was doing. I was just running the streets. Didn't go home at all. I was just roaming the streets with these people. Never sleeping. Just we're breaking into apartments, sleeping there, doing dumb things, just doing everything wrong. We're sleeping at apartment complexes, like in their pools, like how they have little like
Cabanas.
the tents, the Jimenez. Yeah, we're sleeping in those. We're sleeping in parks. We're just me and these guys are just we didn't want to go home. We're just doing these drugs, and we what was it? We ended up just hanging out with them, and I go to another friend who was doing like coke and all these other drugs, and I just hang out with him, and then we're just doing all these drugs, and just hanging out with all these people, and at this one point, I'm just doing the drugs so much, and meth was really becoming the main drug for me, and I ended up losing 20 pounds in like 2 weeks, all this stuff, and my body just like on edge, and like I ended up smoking with the one guy. So they smoke these things called pookies, which I'm not trying to get into detail, but it's like this little like pipe. And so this guy has this thing that's like the same thing, but it's like a bong version, for meth. And so he tells me about it. He brings it out. We end up smoking from it, and I take a hit, and all I remember is like almost throwing up. And this guy, he's been doing the drugs for like 3 years, and he was just like, "Yo, stop." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "If you almost throw up, that means you're like about to overdose, dude. You're good." And I took his word for it. I got scared because I'm like, this guy's been doing this drug forever. And so I was like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm about to die. Like, chill. And so I'm still hanging out with this guy, the rest of the day,
He's like an older guy?
Yeah, I go to a casino with him. Like, he's just doing dumb things, like basically going 100 miles an hour wherever we went,
Jeez.
driving on the wrong side of the roads and stuff, like you're scared of death kind of stuff, like just trying to mess with us. Still bipolar, just doing all this crazy stuff. And I just was not feeling it. Like, I think the whole time I was riding with this guy for the whole day, I was like, I want to get away. And so we're just going all these places. And eventually we come back to the apartments. He's like, with my other friend, we're going to go pick up meth. They leave. And I just like, where'd they go? Because I didn't even notice they left. And I was just like, I'm going to leave. So I go with this one guy, homeless guy I was hanging out with at the time, and we leave together. And actually, I met this guy at a house party, or a house, like, we ended up going to a guy's house. I jump in stories because, there's so much that happened. We went to this house, doing drugs. I ended up crashing this kid's mom's car. Had to pay it off kind of thing, and my parents were mad. All this stuff, just all these issues. So that's how I met that guy. And so, like, fast forward, I'm walking with this guy. I'm telling him I'm going to leave. I get some water with him at a gas station, walking away, and I could just feel the come down from the meth. Just, like, my head was vibrating. My heart was beating, like, weird. And I was just walking, like, trying to drink this water. Because while you're doing this drug, you can't drink water. You can't sleep. You can't eat. You're just basically on this...
slave to it.
You're a slave to it. You just lose all urges for, like, anything that you need, basically. And so I'm just walking, like, basically, like, just can't even, like, just trying to stay alive. Get home, sweating, bullets, chills, super cold, just, like, my stomach's turning in my body, almost throwing up, like, crystally looking stuff. Just can't even, like, stand. I had to just get on my knees on the floor and just, like, felt like I was gonna die. I could just feel my heart going crazy.
Yeah.
I remember seeing, like, my cat there just freaking out because it knew I was probably, like, dying, and just, like, so it was just, like, a scary moment. Next day, told my mom everything. I was freaking out, and my mom, my dad, obviously, and my other brother, who the one that was doing a lot of drugs, went in on trouble. He has a pride issue, so for him, he's, oh, I'm better than you kind of thing. So he's just mocking me. My dad, he's old school, so he's like, oh, why would you do that? Kind of same thing. And my other brother, who, he's done a lot of drugs too, but he's kind of more, he kind of, like, realized the issue. He was supportive. My mom was supportive. So they take me to rehab. My mom takes me to rehab. I go to rehab for a little while, get good, get away from the drug, and, guys, so I get good. You know, still like mentally was unstable. I went to my you know senior pictures, broke down at school in front of like all the seniors, the new seniors. Just all these issues going on, just mentally just not there. And it took some time to get back, and so I get back, and I'm doing good, you know, hanging out with these two girls who became one of my best friends, you know. I met them while doing drugs, met them through my old friends, you know, and they were really nice, and so we ended up hanging out, and, you know, they kept me away from the kids doing meth. They're like, oh, we don't want you doing that, you know, and so became really close with them, and by the time senior year started, I ended up ditching them, and started, you know, just hanging out with some like other kids that I started hanging out with like the druggy kids, you know, smoking weed daily. Started, you know, smoking weed at school daily, smoking vape. You know, that's when like the nicotine kind of things, the little jewels and stuff got popular. Doing those, you know, just smoking in the bathroom, getting in trouble still. You know, cops like pulling me out, our teachers pulling out, our people pulling me out of class to search me with cops, or you know, test me if I'm drugged out. Teachers, you know, like issues with teachers, fighting with teachers. I ended up like getting kicked out of a class, you know, and having to switch a class. Yeah, just different things like that, and like getting in a lot of trouble. Started hating people. At a point, I started actually avoiding people. I started like staying alone, and just like, you know, I was kind of just like, I want to just smoke, and just the people. I started getting that mindset of people were just cancer, you know, hate people, and so I'm just basically using people, you know, still like just drugs, you know, whenever I could sleep around, you know, kind of thing, just like just doing my own thing, and getting in trouble a lot still, and actually even more so in high school. I think before in high school it wasn't as bad, but senior year, just I was just not even caring, and so I just at this point I think I was like at that point where I was like I just want to get expelled, so I'm just getting in trouble, whatever, I don't care, doing drugs, you know, just cussing out the dean, cussing out teachers, like, oh, what you gonna do about it, like, don't even care. And, you know, ended up smoking weed with these guys, you know, already out of high school, two of them. One of them was like going to my old high school, the first one I went to, and, you know, I'm just going to these guys' apartments every day, smoking weed till like I'd pass out. We're just smoking weed all day, and they became my best friends basically throughout the senior year. Just like doing drugs with them, or just they didn't do other drugs, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, just little things like that. Like not heavier drugs. I mean, they're not little, but still wasn't doing the heavy drugs anymore. And I thought, oh, it's weed. It's not bad like the other drugs. So I'm just smoking, chilling with these guys. You know, they became like my best friends. You know, that's all we did. You know, drugs. And so I'm hanging out with these guys, and ended up getting in a lot of trouble in high school after cussing out the dean, after cussing out a teacher. I ended up getting expelled. Ended up going to and before that I told my mom, like, if I don't get expelled, I'm gonna drop out. And so I ended up getting expelled. I leave and go to a continuation school, which was actually right down the street from my high school, or our high school. And so yeah, I fit in with these kids, and you know, just they're all telling me their drug stories, we're all hanging out. I ended up hanging out with my old friend from high school. Was on the football team, the Cholo kids. Basically, I started hanging out with the Cholos, you know, and so I don't know if maybe that's what they basically were, you know. And I'm Mexican too, so you know, I'm kind of like a Cholo kid with them, you know. And I'm still the jokester, still doing all the dumb things, you know. And I started smoking with that guy some more. One of my homies from, you know, high school, he was, you know, doing football. You know, we started hanging out with him too, and you know, just doing smoking, and graduate from that school. You know, I ended up during this time going through anxiety from drugs. You know, just doing so many drugs, I just like it was messing with my body where I was having anxiety attacks. So stopped smoking for a while. And end up, you know, hanging out with my friends some more, smoking a little bit more, started to pick up smoking again during the summer. You know, graduate, smoke some more in summer, and just having fun, and definitely just like still going down this bad path, and you know, sleeping around, doing drugs, just having fun, just like, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter, and like just chilling with the bros. Thought it was just like, this is life, you know, just going with the flow,
normal,
and like you know, just doing whatever I could to just have fun, you know, stay medicated and just stay like my mind off everything. And so I end up
repressing everything.
Yeah, basically just, you know, doesn't have a job, didn't have anything, just trying to just have fun. And so I end up at one point, I ended up losing those friends because, my one friend actually wanted to, he never had sex, and so he wanted to have sex with one girl, and she ended up liking me. I had sex with her. He got mad, just issues, friendship, all the group, all of us just drama, broke apart. And so I leave that group. They obviously took his side because I was a bad person. I wouldn't took my side either. I was a pretty messed up person.
Jeez,
And
that's powerful.
So dip from them, start smoking with the football player kid I was talking about every day, and hanging out with this other kid named Manny I met through them. I don't know if I'm supposed to say names, but
right.
I don't think anybody's really gonna know him. But yeah, this kid, he hung out with me. He's smoking daily. He's smoking a lot more than I did. I smoked a lot, but he smoked a lot.
That's saying something right there.
Yeah, I was saying something because I smoked a lot, and this kid just was like, he had nobody to hang out with. So basically, me and him just become smoke buddies. We're just every day smoking. Like, hey John, you want to come hang out? And I'm like, yeah. So we just go smoke, smoke every day, and just like basically because I had a car, he didn't. So I was the ride. We go smoke, go just me and him just driving my car wherever we could go, parking somewhere, smoking, just going out in nature, walking around, just like talking, just me and this buddy, just getting close, talking, smoking, and he became like one of my best friends at the time, and I ended up just like having smoking with them all the time. And I ended up one day during that summer, just like my one friend, the one I was doing like coke with before, and like I had history with him. His sister had a baby with my brother, the one that was kind of the little crazier one. I love him, but I'm still gonna say he still has his issues, and I'm still gonna be praying for him. I love him. Right. He's my brother, but they had a kid together, and her brother became pretty close to me. So basically he was doing a lot of drugs. He was kind of like an outcast like me, so we kind of fit in together. And like he calls me over, hey, I have a new apartment, come over. So I was like, oh, okay. Go to his apartment, we're chilling. I bought some weed. Like, hey, let's smoke some weed. And he was like, oh, okay, like I want to get some coke. And so I was like, okay, like we can get coke. So we get the weed, but then he wants to get coke too. Go get this coke. And I didn't even know what at the time I was like, I don't want to do a heavier drug because I went through meth. And I was already like, at that point I was like, that was the furthest I wanted to go. But I was at a low point in my life where I was like, it's whatever.
Not much
we
to
get
lose.
to his house, he kind of talks to me like, if you want to, you can. I was like, oh, whatever. So I just snort the coke. Coke's a weird drug. It's not like a heavy hitter. Kind of slowly eases in. You don't even notice it. You just start talking a lot and you start feeling like happy. And it's not even like a weird body high. It's just like you just get more energized, kind of like coffee or like something like that. You're just talking a lot. And so I felt good. So I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm all like, let's just talk. So we smoke a little bit, just talking. And the come down comes, and I get anxiety. And so I'm just like, oh crap, I don't like this. And he's like, oh, that's just the come down. You want to do some more coke? And I was like, no. And so he's like, okay, like that's cool. The come down's just gonna get worse if you do more. So I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. So he's like, oh, just stay the night. And so I sleep because coke's a big drug. You can get in trouble. You can go to prison.
Yeah.
If you're driving on coke or anything like that, it's a heavier drug. So I stay at his house for a little. I'm still having anxiety. I couldn't sleep. He falls asleep. I end up leaving his house, driving home, and just like I was like, all right, I didn't like that, but I mean, got away from him, And I get home, and my other friend 2 days later, I think me and the same kid that I smoked a lot of weed with, the one that smoked more than me. I guess I already said his name, but yeah, him and me start. He wants to smoke, and I had a new bong, so he's like, I want to smoke the bong, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we get a new piece for my bong, a new bowl piece, a bigger bowl piece, and he's like, oh, let's go smoke the bong, and I was like, okay, cool. So he brings weed, we take a hit, and I was feeling weird, and I was sitting in the bed, like my heart is beating weird, and he was like, oh, just lay down, and I was like, no, it's really fast. And he's like, no, just lay down. And I was like, no. And I think it's because of the mixture of the drugs. Like, I still, was coming down from the coke. Because coke takes some time to deplete from you. Because you just messed up your body with coke. Like, it takes a while for it to, get out of your system. For you to regain all the dopamine. And so I'm still, my body was just not ready. And so I was like, hey, dude, I got to go to my mom's room. And my heart's beating, it was
Out of your
going, like,
chest.
it was just going boom, 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 really fast.
Jeez.
And so I was just like, I don't feel good. And I told my mom, and I'm like, Mom, my heart's beating really fast. And she felt my chest, and she's like, what, why is you, yeah, that is really fast. What'd you do? And I was just like, I was scared, so I knew it wasn't the weed. So I just was scared, and I was like, okay, Mom, I did coke a few days ago. And they're like, my parents like, oh, jeez. Because they're just like, okay, like,
This again.
did a crazy drug again, And so they were like, okay, wait here. And like, I want to go to I was like, tell my mom, I want to go to urgent care. Like, I don't feel good. And she's like, okay. And she gets in, like, and ready. I'm looking at my stomach. My stomach is like vibrating. My chest is just, you can see my heart beating out of my chest. My chest is just, it's so beating so fast. My veins are popping out because it's just the blood flowing through me. It was just so fast. And I was feeling weak. And so I was just like, Mom, please. And so, like, she gets ready. Like, we leave. Get in the car. I'm moving like a grandpa. Like, I couldn't even sit. I had to
Like slow
move really
motion.
slow because like my body was just
Mhm.
so like, it was just basically like tensed up. It was just like on edge. It was just trying to keep me alive basically.
Yeah.
And so I get in the car. My mom has to run back in, and at this point, I didn't believe in God really. I kind of like, there was times like I went throughout church, so like there was points where I was like, oh, I do believe in a God, and there's points I'm atheist. One point I'm like, oh, I do believe in a God again, but I don't know who it is, like whatever, like. But
Seems
then
like a lot of people
like
are.
this, so like I was like in my car, like
Mhm.
in my mom's car, just like praying, because I was like, I'm scared. I'm like, just God, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm scared. I don't want to die. Please, 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 please. And like I'm sitting like in the car. My mom had to go back inside to get my ID for the hospital. She leaves me, comes back. I'm in the car, just like my mom's like, focus on your breathing, just focus on your breathing. I'm trying to focus on my breathing. I'm still freaking out, just like, man. And so I get to the hospital. We're in the urgent care, and you know, they obviously I told them I had a heart issue. Heart issues and brain issues are first serve. So I jumped the line. They sit me down, hooked me up to the EKG, and my heart's going like 140 beats per minute, which like people are like, that's like if you're sprinting or like doing a like really heavy workout, and my heart's just beating normally at that, and that's really bad. So I was like, okay, like the lady's like, she's like, oh, that's fast, and she's like, oh, it's okay, like 1 minute telling me, oh, you're good, sweetie, you're good, and then she walk away and be like, oh, we need to help him, like, and so I'm like scared because I'm like, okay, 1 minute she said I'm okay, but I think she's just trying to calm me down, obviously.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't, because I'm seeing her say other things outside, so I'm like, I'm not ready,
You're
like,
like,
I'm scared,
totally.
and so like that probably spiked my heart a little more too.
Yeah, it made it even worse.
Made it even worse. And so I'm sitting there and like I'm just scared, like clenching my mom's hand. And she's like, it's okay. And I guess she was praying, just trying to like, because she's a believer, obviously. She's been a believer for a while. And so I was just scared, and just, I started going into cardiac arrest. And so my heart was basically squeezing. And so like every time I tried to beat, it just clench up because it just was compulsing. And so like I was like screaming. I was like, just yelling because like every beat was just like made me want to scream. Like, it was just hurting so bad. And so like my mom's holding on to me like, hey, okay, like, because cardiac arrest, usually people don't come back from that. You're probably gonna die once you start cardiac arrest because your body is just like, it's gonna get so weak because your heart is just at that point. And so like I don't know how I survived. I do now, obviously it was God, but I, after a few of those like weird beats, like just like my heart, I was like, oh, I'm gonna die. Like in my head I was like, I'm dying right now.
That's
and
crazy.
I was scared.
That's crazy to
and
think.
it stopped, and so like I'm just weak at this point, like and my mom, she's just like, okay, and the nurse comes up, and this is so God. She's like, oh, your heartbeat's going down. I'm still freaking out, but my heart's going slowly down, and it's going to 120, like not super fast, but it's slowly going back down to regular. And so the lady, I finally get in. The lady gets me in, and I go in, and she lays me on this, or sits me on this bed, waiting for the doctor, and I have to throw up. So they bring me a bag. I throw up this like bile. It's like this brown liquid that looked like just poison, and I just threw up like 3 bags of this stuff, and like I basically at that point is like dead. And my mom was like looking at this like, it's gross. She's taking pictures because she's like, that looked like poison. She's basically like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
And so I was probably the drugs. Obviously, it was the drugs. But I was just throwing this stuff up, and like I'm just super weak at this time. Like I'm just like, my heart's still beating kind of like a little fast still. I'm like about to pass out. They finally hooked me up to like the bed, put in I forget what they call
IV?
it. IV, yeah, they put in an IV, and they put in, water, obviously, to pump like, water into me so that I,
Fluids.
not dehydrated, get some fluids in, flush stuff out. And then they also, pump me with this medicine that just, like, basically calms your heart down. And so I'm laying there, they can't keep me because, like, basically a heart issue is just, like, either surgery or not, so they're kind of just
okay.
like, you're not going to, like, there's nothing we can do, just, like, you calm down now, so just go
Yeah.
home. So I go home, and this next week was just insane. So I got saved that day, obviously. Like, God definitely saved me. And the next week was just, I'm sleeping with my parents because my parents are like, you need to stay in our room because we just don't want you to have, like, a heart issue, like,
Right.
while we're not with you, and you could die. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay. And so, like, I'm sleeping in their room, and every night I'd wake up in the middle of the night with the same heart. My parents are like, calm down, go breathe. And so I go, and I legit, like, just pray. And I just be, God, please, like, just, like, calm my heart down. And I was like, and so, like, legit, it would go from beating super fast to just, like, like, in a second, right when I say, like, God's name, it would go back to normal. And so, like, I was just, like, he kept doing that for, like, a week. And it was just basically the enemy was fighting because, he lost me. So he's fighting to regain me. And it was just a battle for that. Those first 2 weeks, like, I'd go to school and I was mentally having breakdowns. So I was in college for video game designing. I couldn't even stay in classes because I was just, like, mentally, like, not stable because, like, the anxiety because of all just the spiritual battle going on. And so I basically one day left school early, went home, and I ended up just driving past my home straight to church, and get on the ground in a prayer room, pray. Just, like, I'm trying to, like, I end up going to my friend's house because they see me there, like, oh, dude, come home with us, like.
Mhm.
And his mom, actually, she's from Africa, actually. She's from Kenya. She's great people. They're an awesome family. And so they're from Kenya, and they're just these awesome people. And the mom just tells me, like, the devil, like, wants to kill you, basically, just saying, like, you're at that point where he wants to take you right now, like, you need to, like, realize this and, like, seek God. And she's telling me all this stuff I need to do, and just telling me prayers, telling me what, stay in the word, go to this, like, start in this book in the Bible, do this, and just basically setting me up to, like, seek God more. And I'm seeking God, listening to her, and just, like, she was such a help. And I ended up going one night with her son to his church in another city. I guess it's a bigger city, so I can just say it. It's Riverside. Riverside is a bigger
Riverside?
city
Yeah.
in California.
Right.
And so we go to Riverside for his youth, and 'cause he goes to UCR, one of those big colleges. And so we go to his church, and we're there, and I try to go in, and I'm having a spiritual battle. The enemy's just, like, trying to keep me out of the church, like, no, you this,
Yeah.
have anxiety. So I just pray, and fight to go in. And basically I tell Kevin what's going on. Kevin tells one of the guys, and the guy that's telling the word that night, and this is just God showing signs and just showing, like, he was just doing work at this time. And he just basically was like, the guy goes in and tells me, hey, this is for you, bro. Like, this whole thing, like, what we're talking about tonight. And so he goes up, like, honestly, like, it was just such a powerful message. Like, he talks to me, prays with me. He goes up, talks, like, and says, like, about, like, basically I think he's talking about spiritual battles.
Okay.
I'd have to find the notes, but I think he was on spiritual battles, like, just what's going on, like, and things like this. And it just kind of, like, it was for me. God definitely had that
That's
for
crazy.
me. Just writing it all down, just getting fed. And, like,
Right.
I understand now why the enemy wanted to keep me out, because there's definitely, like, there was a plan,
Right.
like, he knew the message that kid was planning. He probably knew, like, what was going on, and, like, God knew that he wanted to use that for me.
Probably may put it on his heart,
Yeah,
put it on
and
his heart for you.
honestly, like, it just was amazing, because, like, that was just one of those things that was just, like, a sign. I was like, dude, God really is doing something, like, good. And so then I ended up going another night to my young adults. I just started going to young adults that year because, I'm starting to go to church daily, trying to just really get fed. And I go to the young adults, and they're just like, okay, like, I've been praying before that, like, hey, God, like, I need, like, I think I was praying for peace, like, a peace of mind, or I was praying for, like, what's it called? Yeah, I think it was peace. I think it's something around that line, and I was just praying for it. It was a while ago, like 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry if I don't remember everything, but like
It's all right.
I was praying for that, and like I go in, and the whole message is on exactly what I needed, and it was
Wow.
just kind of like I told the guy, and he's like, that's crazy, like, and I was like, man, that's just so God,
That
like
is.
that was like unbelievable. And like I was just like, this is when I was really getting to that point. Like I'm like, dude, God is so real. Like it was just so
Right.
real to me. Like
That's crazy.
like
This is a turning
I
point.
went from not believing to like, this is the realest thing ever. Like how could I
That's
not see?
crazy.
Like it's because I was spiritually dead.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive yet, and spiritually. And then once I was born again, like it just was so real. And I was just like, man, I was just getting fed. And like at one point I was like, is Jesus really real? Because I was like, okay, you hear all these other doctrines. And so I end up turning, this is like really powerful. I love sharing this part of my testimony. I sit there and I'm just like, okay, if Jesus is real, God, please show me. And so I turn on the Bible app to like, I don't know, I just put to Matthew. And I was like, okay, I'll go to bed. And I kept waking up to the part of Jesus dying on the cross in each gospel. And I'm just like, why do I keep waking up at this part? And I end up like just feeling like God just tells me like, you want to know Jesus and know me, like know what he did for you on that cross. And it just hit like, okay. I was like, okay, Jesus is definitely like.
So it was playing audio.
Yeah, and it
you
definitely
kept falling asleep, and you kept waking up on the part
it
where
was awesome. And it's because really just like that's really like, if you really seek God, it's so true. Like he will definitely like he'll meet you there.
show up.
And so like I was seeking Jesus, like I wanted to know, and he met me.
That's crazy, dude.
And he just showed me like, and it just blew my mind, and I was just like, wow, like, and just all these things were happening. I just started growing closer, going to church. I ended up leaving my home church I was going to because I could just feel like I'm born again, so I'm feeling all these things. I could just feel unhealthiness there, and so it just wasn't healthy for me. I left. So I go to another church, and it's sad because I had a mentor there. He was my mentor. He's a really good guy. But he had a kid too, so it's kind of hard. He's married, has a kid. So, I ended up going to another church, felt it was the best. And really this is the best church for me. I still go there. It's my home church. It's an awesome church.
It's awesome.
And I, one point, was at the Seek Night, or the Seek Week. They have a whole week where they just seek the Lord. And, it's like a spiritual thing where we just basically, push towards the Spirit and just like seek God to see like what he wants through it, and like just it's a powerful thing.
And so it's also aimed also at like new believers, right?
Yeah,
kind of like
and
bringing
it's really
seeking the Lord,
dude.
right?
And it's really good. And so we're sitting there, and like people getting healed and like it's awesome, dude, because this one guy, like it's one of his spiritual gifts, and he's like, the Lord definitely was using him, healing people. He prayed over me, like, I see something in you, like, and just, like, he's praying over other people, and I was just kind of, like, I was just at the moment, like, just seeking God, like, mind blown, just, like, this is awesome,
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
crazy.
like, I get to, one of the people were doing prophetic prayer, and so they pray for me. They're like, oh, we see you in a Bible college. We see you, becoming a pastor. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm going to test the spirits, obviously. So I go, and I'm praying about it. Bible college opens up. Actually, I'm in Bible college now. And I pray about it, and, the Bible college opens up. So I was like, okay, that's true. And I've been having so many opportunities for pastoral ministry. I definitely, need to push more towards it. But, definitely, like, just, like, going to conferences, going to different things, like, just really, like, God just, like, giving me, like, the stepping stones I need, and basically making that foundation I need to
using you
push forward. Yeah, and he's just really just been using me, and like it was amazing because like just recognizing that like like God really was using those women, and it's really just awesome to see like what God is doing through that. And I basically just like that happened, and just been pushing forward, just seeking God more and more every day. The Bible college really helps, because it just it's really just gives you a broader perspective, and it really just like it helps me grow. This has really been helping me grow and get closer to God. And there still is those daily battles, you still gotta fight, but it's just like, man, like to see me 9 months ago,
dude, for real,
like till now is just a total transformation.
I know.
I haven't had sex, I haven't done a drug, I still have struggles sometimes, but it's just not with those, but like other things. But obviously, like not like the extent, and I'm still fighting and still like
Right.
growing, and just like little things too. Like I didn't even like want to stop cussing. I didn't even notice it as an issue, but just like little things like that, like not cussing anymore, like things like that. And it's just like, because all these are still sin to God.
Yeah.
And so just like God just really just like transforming me, and just like making me more like Christ. And it's just awesome to see like me now compared to then, and just like the power of the testimony. Like if anybody's testimony, it's just like you can really just see the power of God in testimonies, and that's what I love
Dude,
about
for
it. And
real.
it's just like to see like what he brought me through, like the maturity he's got me now, where it's like I don't want to just like in every aspect, like I just don't want to just like I want to. He's really just grown me, and
Dude,
just
yeah.
like into a mature man, because maturity comes from God.
Yeah, I mean, let me
Yeah.
tell you something, dude. One of the reasons we're sitting here in two chairs on a stage is one of the reasons I was so gravitated towards
Mm-hmm.
doing something with you for God, and I felt called. I mean, dude, I to see how you've been in the last year, where you've gone from like not even for the podcast right now, man to man. Like, dude, a year ago, like I didn't even know who you were compared to who I know you are as now. I mean, like, dude, I hear stories about you at school, like, oh, that's like, Baker. Like, I knew your reputation. I never knew you, and even this is the first time I've heard your full entire testimony, dude. And it's just, I go from seeing Baker as just this kid who wants to rebel to a kid who was just like misguided, dude. I mean, and I'm not saying that you were justified in everything you did. Of
Yeah.
course not. But
No.
to say that these are the broken and lost kids, like these are the people we're called to like go out and heal, or not heal, but at least reach out to. And I bet your perception of the church when you're going through those hard times was like, not as it should be, right? You probably thought they
Yeah.
were, hateful people or whatever. I mean, but to see how you have changed, how God has used you, like has inspired me totally. And I don't even know if you understand that as much as possible, because when I look at your life and how God has changed you, that inspires me. And it's like, God is so good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like God uses people. Like I just remember one day, I've talked about this before. I don't think you were there, though. I was given a message one night. I actually talked about this. I was just sitting there, and people are, people praying for you, bro, before you even knew it.
Yeah.
And one day you just show up to church at youth group back when we were in high school still. I think it was before we graduated. And it's like, dude, Jonathan's at my church right now. Like, you saw the miracles that God was doing in your life because you were seeking God, right? But little did you know the prayer that we and other people were praying for you. So not only did the people who were praying for you were so inspired to see you coming to God, you were also inspired to see your life changing, right? And when we talk about, like, a testimony that can move, like, I got to be honest, if God can bring you back to a relationship with him, like, how could we ever call anyone lost?
Yeah.
Like, you were found before you were lost,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And God's so like, oh man, it's just awesome to see is like what he does. Like he's just so like, he's such an awesome God. Like seeing like one of my other friends, the one I did coke with and almost died with, he got saved. And I was praying for him, and like when he got saved, I was like mind blown. It was like
Yeah.
awesome. Like it just like really just like I was jumping up and down like, man, like
It's crazy.
And then my other friend, the one I was, I stopped hanging out with him because of the girl. He got saved, like one of my friends from that group, and like that was crazy too. And so like it's just like seeing like the work God's doing in the world, and just seeing like that, like, man, like his power, like to take the broken, like that's just like that's so God, like
Yeah.
when everybody else wants to just like push the broken aside, like, oh, we don't want to deal with that. God takes the broken.
Chases you down.
Chases you down, makes you his own, and transforms you into who you're supposed to be. And it's just awesome to see that, because it's like, just, man, it's totally
Dude,
just like,
it's like people think like, oh, I'm not worthy of worship,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm not worthy. God would like, judge me. I haven't talked to God in a while. I should probably call him.
Yeah.
But the fact is, of course, I don't worship God because I'm worthy. I worship
Yeah.
God because he is worthy, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about worship, I think our worship is in I'm not just talking about on a stage with a hand lifted, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking about our everyday life. Like
Yeah.
how we live our life is a reflection of our worship.
Mm-hmm.
And we should live our lives in a manner that says, God, you are worthy. I may not be, but you are. You are worthy of the praise, God. You are worthy of the worship. I mean, found in the Bible, I just want to jump in. Something I just wanted to say, if we can jump here in the book of Joshua, chapter 24, if you want to look at, it was one of the most quoted, and I actually didn't even realize this was the connection. I was reading a devotional about leadership, which actually took me here, and I'm going to look at verse 15 here. Everyone's going to know about this one. At the end of it, you'll realize it says, "And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served." Here, I just want to take a pause there. That's why I was talking slow. So you see here a choice is presented, right? You'll see between the world and following God. It says, sorry about this. "Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served or that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell."
Mm-hmm.
And then Joshua says, after posing a question, the chosen leader, right, after Moses died, it says, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord."
Mm-hmm.
You see, Joshua led in his actions, and people followed him.
Mm-hmm.
They went on to follow God because he set the example, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you were young, you followed the example of the people who were living in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the way in which we live our lives matters.
Mm-hmm.
The way in which we are presenting ourselves, right?
Yeah.
The way, my hope has always been, because I was in a dark place too, as far as people looking up to back when I was younger in school, like I was always like, frankly, kind of bullied by the older kids, and it was like, I would always think when I'm older, like, I don't want to be that kid. I don't want to be that bully. I'm not better than them. I want to be that kid where they look at me and they want to walk in the light. Joshua says, it doesn't matter what you're going to do here because I'm going to serve the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? And he's that leader. Like, you're looking up to this guy, right? Right? They're looking up. The Israelites are looking up to Joshua when this is being said. Like, imagine the person you respect the most, or just some dude you look up to, and he says, like, you can do this or this. I'm going to do this. And his actions show that. He doesn't try to convince you with his words. He convinces you with his actions, because his actions are his worship, right? And our testimony is our worship, how we live our lives, right? How we live our lives has a mobilizing effect. When you see someone who's got it all, what do you want to emulate their lives? But when we can be Christ followers, right? And we can have joy, people want to emulate that and be more like the Lord and follow us, and and it's transformed you and it's inspired me, and my heart behind this whole entire message. Why are we sitting here? Why are we sitting here? Because I hope that this testimony can inspire, right? That it matters. It matters how we live our lives.
Yeah, because Jesus is the light of the world, and since He lives in us, we are the light of the world, and it's really just like, we need to be shining that light,
Right.
Because, Christianity, there's a lot of Christians out there that are ashamed of it and they want to hide it. But we shouldn't be hiding it, because,
it's the greatest
God
news.
didn't just give us the freedom. God didn't free us so that we can hold it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's to share, because there's a lot of people that need that freedom who don't have that freedom.
Right. Yeah.
We're lost. Yeah. And it's just really just recognizing that. Like, that's every Christian's main calling. Every follower of Christ's main calling is to do that, and go and make disciples,
Dude, the true heart of a believer should be to bring people closer to God. You know what I mean? It's for the better, right? And I just wanted to talk about something. I feel before we close out here. I know it's been a long episode, but we've been blessed to sit in here with you, Jonathan, and it's been great. But I'd like to kind of, something I felt was put on my heart right when I was getting ready to actually leave to come here for the podcast today. My sister, I asked where my mom was, and she was out front, and she was watering. My sister was being kind of like joking with me because my mom's trying to like start like grass or whatever in this certain area, and my sister's like, she's watering the dirt. And on the surface, I'm like, well, I said to her in response, it won't be dirt for long, right? That'll be grass, right? And then she's like, yeah, and I didn't say that. I said, it won't be dirt for long. Like, I was insinuating that it's going to turn into grass. My sister goes, yeah, you're right. It'll be mud. And then I started to think, like, and this is just crazy, dude. Like, God has inspired me in everything. Like, every situation has been inspiring me. And that's why I think we're here in front of these microphones, because I want to pour that out into you. This is what I thought. I have just seen God putting on my heart the order in which we live our lives matters. If you're watering dirt, it is going to turn into mud, because first you have to plant the seeds. When we plant our seeds in our life that matter, in our responsibilities, in our ties, and that's one thing, right? We could plant the seeds, but unwatered seeds, nothing's going to happen. We have to water those seeds, right? We can go to church, right? We can plant a seed, go to church, but if we're not having that relationship with God, church is different than having a relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
Going to a church service is one thing. Having a meaningful relationship with God and praying and in the Word, right? You got to water that grass, right? First, you got to plant the seed. Second, you have to water it. So I think so many times we want to water it before we've even planted it, and we wonder why nothing grows, right? We wonder, we talk about turning dirt into mud. Yeah, the order matters, right? We have to have these right things, and I think sometimes our lives and the way we live our lives gets so backwards, right? And as you saw, it takes you down that dark road, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And my sincerest heart is that this whole entire episode just inspires you to plant that seed and to realize that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Given that decision, you had a choice, Jonathan, right? You had a choice at one point in your life, many points in your life, and you came to that point where it's like, I am going to serve the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when the other people who I was, so close with I am going to serve the Lord. And now I bet those people are like, dude, who's this Jonathan kid, right? I mean, they see that, and that may even inspire them, to maybe be like, whoa, they see the joy that you have, and they're like, well, how do you have that? Like, who is God? Like, I mean, that is the effect it has. You know what I mean? I'm getting that. They see how your life is, and they're like, I want that. I think we all get to a point where you're at in our lives where it's like, there's got to be something more. Like, I'm sitting here, you're like, I'm gonna die this way. This is something more to life.
Yeah.
Right? And it was when you chose to serve the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
right, that it changed your life. And I mean, you're such a blessing, to this community in general, man. I mean, you're like a local celebrity, dude. I mean, like, I don't know if you realize, but like so many people like know like your story in general, and like how you've just been formed into like the man you are today, and it's just so respectable.
And I mean, man, it's all God, and honestly, like, it's good to see like other friends and like you and like all of us in here, like, just to see like other young believers who are pushing towards the Lord, because it's like, you hear about our generation is one of the worst generations for believers. A lot of younger ones are leaving the church, and a lot of younger ones are like not seeking God, and it's just good to see that there's still hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope, and it's good to see that there's a lot of us still seeking, and it's just like it points towards like it pushes me towards like thinking like there is going to be a revival.
Hope. Yeah, there's going to be a revival.
Yeah, seeing that like there's going to be a revival, because it's not because of maybe the older people, but because also them, but God's using the young ones too.
Because God, right?
Yeah, God's using it's all God. He's used.
It has to go through God. I mean, 1 Corinthians, Paul's talking about the church. What can save the church? He said there is no reason to have hope, but God.
Yeah.
There is hope because of the Lord, right? There's no hope without God, right? If God's not real, I don't think he'd be sitting here. To be frank with you, there's no hope for this generation without God.
Mm-hmm.
It lays it out in 1 Corinthians like very clearly in the for the church in that time, and I think it translates well to this time as well. Dude, like honestly, like all the glory to God, right? I mean, as cliche as it is.
I mean, no, God is everything, dude. Like, God is the reason for everything good in this world, and without him, there's no hope.
Right.
That's the truth.
Right. Well, we appreciate you giving that testimony today. It's
for sure, bro.
Dude, I hope it touches someone out there. just one. That's all it takes.
Me too. It's great to share, and it's great to be here with you guys, and just I'm so happy to be able to share with whoever's listening.
Right. I mean, even if it's one
you
or
guys are
1,000.
a blessing too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pray us out, and then we'll finish out. So, dear Lord, I just ask you to allow the right people to hear your message that you had tonight for us, God. And I ask that it touches at least just one person, God. I mean, that's that's the calling, God. And I just hope that Jonathan's story, that you've used him, God, is able to transform other people's lives. And the right person in the right place hears this message in the right time, God, just as Jonathan was in the right place, God. And I ask you to reveal yourself to those who are seeking you, God, and continue to reveal yourselves to Jonathan and I and everyone here in the studio tonight. And we thank you for our time together, God. And I just thank you for the people here who are listening and supporting, God, even an hour in. And we love you, God, and we're thankful for you and everything that you've done for us, God. And we ask that you continue to bless us. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, we thank you guys for listening. If you're still listening in, we appreciate you. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Bye.
Goodbye.